welcome to season 2 of the Get Schooled on Public Education podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Baker, and remember, charter schools are free, public, and open to all. We are celebrating National Charter Schools Week, and we're raising our voices about the impact of charter schools around the nation. Each year, the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools honors a group of individuals who have gone above and beyond to demonstrate their commitment to advance public education and their communities. This year, we selected 7 changemakers, and I'm delighted to have one of our honorees on the show with us today. Daniyal Hussain is a student advocate and senior at Cottonwood Classical Preparatory School in New Mexico. And he's an alum of the National Alliance's Rising Leaders Initiative, which is a 1-year advocacy training program for charter school high school students. Hi, Daniyal. Thanks for joining us today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you for having me today, Brittany.
Of course. Okay. So speaking of feelings, congratulations on being named a 2024 National Charter Schools Week Changemaker. How does that feel and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think to me, it made me feel overjoyed and grateful to everybody who helped me along the journey. In fact, when I first saw the email, I was at track practice and I was completely amazed that I had even been nominated for this because I had heard of the awards themselves, but I never thought that I'd be nominated for it or receive the award itself. And so, yeah, I'm just overjoyed and super thankful to the program itself. In fact, it's opened up a lot of opportunities for me, as well as it's demonstrated one of my now significant passions, which is advocacy as well as policy making. It led me down a journey where I got to not only pursue this, but I got to go through a whole bunch of different experiences. And so overall, I'm really thankful, really grateful, and overjoyed to be awarded this.
Yay, we are grateful to have you and you deserve it. So you are a high school student, a high school senior at Cottonwood Classical Preparatory. Tell us about your educational experience there and what makes it special.
Yeah, so I think Cottonwood to me is special in several different ways. So I remember when I first came to the school in sixth grade, I was really behind in a couple of different subjects just because my elementary school didn't adequately prepare me for middle school. And so I think one of the biggest things for me is kind of the faculty and the community at Cottonwood Classical Preparatory School. And I say that because when I came in from sixth grade, I thought I'd fall far behind my classmates, wouldn't be able to catch up. But thankfully, the faculty was there for me. There was a lot of math tutoring, which is something I needed. There was English tutoring and several other different things in that realm. And so, what I'm saying in general is that the faculty there are really a big part of the community because they help students, they provide support, and it's on the students to try and reach out. And that's exactly what I did. So I think that's something that made Conwell Classical's educational experience so special to me. And I think another thing on top of that is as I've gone through the years, is that when it comes to supporting me in things outside of that and providing me with opportunities, that is something else that Conwell Classical did a great job in. For example, my college counselor recommended the Rising Leaders Initiative to me, and I would have never heard about it and through anywhere else. And so that's just one example. I could mention several others. For example, when I tried to start my Rising Leaders Advocacy Club, that was something else that I was supported by several different teachers. And moreover, it opened even more opportunities that I was brought to through the school. So overall, I think the biggest thing that is something that Common Classical, what makes it special is the opportunities plus the faculty who support all the students. And on top of that, the rigorous curriculum, IB curriculum that it has, which is something I enjoy and something it's taught several different qualities and skills to me.
Nice. Teachers Appreciation Week was earlier this month. Can you tell us about a teacher who had a major impact on your educational experience and why?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one really important teacher to me was a teacher who demonstrates several different traits which I strive to be. They are able to work effectively in a team, which is something I think is important. And the reason I say that is because they are part and they sponsor so many different clubs and they dedicate equal amounts to each of these clubs. They don't specialize one club over the other. And when they're in those clubs, they do a really good job of communicating. So when they want to take on projects as the sponsor of that club, they really are able to delineate different projects to each student within that club. And so these are just two of the traits that I aspire to see in myself when I think of this teacher. And so the reason they had a major impact on me is because they were also the sponsor of my advocacy club, as well as another club of mine, but in the sense that they didn't take it as like their club and that they had to lead everything. They only supported me in leadership skills and other skills related to that. So I think this teacher to me, and I can actually say his name, is Mr. Peter Lukes, and he's our CAS coordinator at Cottonwood Classical Preparatory School. So as part of the IB curriculum, you have to do CAS, which is basically service to your community. And he provides us with so many different opportunities to do this, as well as he supports us in opportunities that are related to this. Like I mentioned, several different clubs, like my club, as well as Social Action Club, which holds several different events. And for example, today they're going to be holding an event related to something that's been going on in our school for a long time. And so overall, I think this is one teacher who has had a major impact on me throughout my years at Cottonwood Classical.
And you told us a little bit about your club earlier. So you started a club at school geared towards advocating for legislation to improve public education in New Mexico. Can you tell us more about the club and why you think it was important to start it?
Yes, for sure. So I think the biggest thing for me was within the New Mexico community, there are a lot of issues that have to be addressed. And one of the biggest ones is education, especially within New Mexico. And the reason for this is because I know that New Mexico is already on the lower side of education and the standard of it. But on top of that, we have several other issues in New Mexico, such as poverty and just access to education as well. And so to me, I wanted to open a club in which students within my local community, being the school community, could advocate for different policies and things that they thought were important to them. And so when I first originally started the club, there were about, I think, 15 or 20-ish students, and all of them wanted to pursue various different things. And so that was the main reason, is that they all had such great ideas and they all wanted to do such amazing things for the common community. For example, one of them, which was a bill that was passed within the House, within my legislation in New Mexico, was providing menstrual products for all bathrooms within all schools in New Mexico and in Albuquerque. And it happened and took effect within my school as well. And then there were other things such as advocating for the Yena Gallegos open space not to be replaced with, I think it was some sort of building that would have definitely ruined the agriculture and had significant effects on the environment itself. And so advocating for things like this were important for that club. And I think even more recently, something that's been more important, especially related to education, is STEAM. Within New Mexico, STEAM is very important. There are several different labs within New Mexico: Sandia Labs, Los Alamos National Labs, and a lot of these labs are based on STEAM-based activities. And so inspiring the younger generation to participate in things related to STEAM, such as robotics or different art clubs and things like that, was something that was important to us. And we began to draft legislation and introduce it to the legislation on a STEAM bill that would create a STEAM network within New Mexico. And we only began to draft it. We didn't get a chance to introduce it, this legislation, just because it was a short legislation. They were focused on other concerns for the budget. And this was more of something that was to be established long term. But it was still something we were really passionate about. And we inevitably got to go up to the Capitol and speak about STEAM itself. And that was really exciting. And so I think overall, the most important reason why I wanted to start this club was to put students in a place of power to advocate for what they truly thought was important for education and the New Mexico community.
Yes, and student voice is so important. And you've gone from advocating within the walls of your school to advocating for legislation in the halls of the Roundhouse in Santa Fe. Tell us about when you testify in front of the New Mexico legislature and how you help secure funding for International Baccalaureate, also known as IB testing in New Mexico. So, what was that like and why was that important to you?
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think that IB to me is really important. As I mentioned, Commerce offers several different opportunities. For example, it offers many supportive faculty members to help you open your own clubs and things like that. But at the same time, it offers a very rigorous curriculum, and that curriculum being the International Baccalaureate curriculum. And so the way it works is that you take 2 years worth of content during your junior and senior year. And at the end of those 2 years, you take an exam on that content. And the exams are very content heavy as there's 2 years of content on them. More importantly, these exams do come at a cost, and that cost is around $119 per exam. On top of that, the curriculum itself teaches the student a lot of different traits, such as being open-minded, being able to critically think about different problems and come up with solutions, as well as being balanced in both your academic life and your extracurriculars as well as other things. And so overall, the rigorous program itself is really beneficial for the student. However, like I mentioned, there is that cost. And as we are a charter school, we students are allowed to attend free of cost. But the issue is, how are individuals who are attending a charter school who do want to get an education at no cost want to participate in this rigorous program? And they can't sometimes because of the cost of those tests. And so to me, it was important that I testified at the New Mexico legislature for IB funding, because it's important that all students within New Mexico don't have to pay for their education and don't have to pay to get in and actually participate in such an amazing curriculum, and rather are able to take these courses free of cost and understand the benefits of them. And overall, I think it's important for the New Mexico community that IB test funding is secured.
What issues or topics are you currently focused on in your advocacy club?
Yeah, that's a great question. So recently, as part of the club, we participated a lot in STEAM activities, and we worked with different legislators as well as the Lanel Foundation in New Mexico to attend the STEAM Day at the Capitol, as well as create legislation behind creating a STEAM network. So within New Mexico, STEAM is really important because it is basically a funnel towards students being able to work in places like Sandia Labs as well as Los Alamos National Labs. And both of these places are heavily based on STEAM things. And so it's important that we advocate for STEAM education as well as introduce STEAM to younger generations so that they become passionate for it and want to actually participate in it. And so what we did was, when we attended the STEAM Day at the Capitol, was we explored various different STEAM projects, such as plants going to space, different 3D printing things, as well as robotics. And so with all of these things combined, we provided New Mexico with a day at the STEAM Capitol where we advocated for STEAM in front of legislators and at the same time showed off how cool STEAM itself is. But as we look to the future, I think something that we plan to work on is providing funding for civic education. So when I was in 10th grade, I participated in the We the People competition class. And what the We the People class itself aims to do is provide students with an education on the United States of America's Constitution, as well as how it can be applied to different situations. I remember this class being really interesting because it explored different Supreme Court cases, as well as showed me the importance of our Constitution and how it is interpreted on a daily basis. But a big issue about this program is that it does cost a lot of money to the school. And as we move to the future, it's important that we solidify a budget as well as create legislation in terms of civic education and prove to legislators that civic education is important. Students should know how the Constitution was founded, how the America came to be what it is today, as well as how the Constitution can be applied. Not only is it important for daily life, but it can inspire students to pursue passions and careers within civic education itself, as well as the civic world. And so overall, I think that's what the Advocacy Club looks towards the future with, is providing legislation and more advocacy related to civic education.
Yes, very impressive. You all are doing big things. What does it mean to raise your voice for charter schools, and how has the National Alliance's Rising Leaders program helped shape your outlook on advocacy?
Yeah, for me, it means that I'm raising my voice for something I believe is truly important for my community. I think raising my voice for charter schools means showing the need for the recognition and putting more effort into supporting them. For example, the Rising Leaders program has shown me that students' voices truly do matter, which is something I thought was amazing. When I first was admitted to the Rising Leaders program, I thought that it would just be a program where I attend meetings on a monthly basis and I wouldn't get much exposure into the advocacy world itself. However, that was far from the truth. The Rising Leaders program not only showed me how amazing it is to be a student advocate, but how much influence I have on different things. For example, after my internship was over, I was able to secure an internship with the New Mexico government and looked specifically within New Mexico high school start times. And that mainly stemmed from the connections I was able to make through the Rising Leaders Initiative. And during this time, when I was studying high school start times, I was able to offer my input on what I thought was important. And all of that was taken into serious consideration. And even now, it is still being brought up. And during my senior year, I have been able to attend Capitol meetings and advocate for my briefing that I created up at the Capitol during my internship about the importance of high school start times. So what it means to me is that student advocacy is important, and the Rising Leaders Initiative program showed me how important it is.
And looking ahead, it's your senior year. What are your plans after graduation? And are there any ways our listeners can support you in your journey?
Yeah, so I think after graduation from Cottonwood Classical Preparatory School, I will be attending the University of New Mexico and pursuing a degree in political science. And I think the main reason for this is because of policy and how much the Rising Leaders Initiative has showed me and how much of impact I can make on my local community. And so that's my plan, is to go to UNM, obtain a bachelor's, and then I think afterwards I will probably attain a master's or graduate degree in political science or a different field. And I think the main way that our listeners can support me in this journey is just to show that they can also advocate and they should pursue advocacy in what they think is important. As I hope that I've shown, is that it's possible to do it, and everybody should try to do it, because oftentimes legislators aren't receiving enough information on what's going on in different fields. And so I think the biggest way that listeners can support my journey as well as their own is to show the world that they should advocate for what they think is important within education itself.
Well, we are so proud of you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Daniel. It was a pleasure to converse with you today, and we're so excited to follow your work in the future.
Of course. Thank you so much, Brittany, for having me on the podcast today.
Before we officially end this episode, I want to shout out our 6 remaining changemakers and share a little bit about them. We have 2 charter school parent changemakers, one from Alabama, Gematrice Powell McAdams from Empower Community School, where she started a parent group to strengthen parent involvement and hold school leaders accountable. Another from New Mexico, Julia Rivera Tapia is a parent and administrator at J. Paul Taylor Academy. She leads her school's Equity Council to ensure students receive the support they need. We have a school leader out of Colorado. Zach Dominello is the executive director at Ricardo Flores Magoon Academy. He leads a school advisory council focused on getting parents engaged in advocacy. In Washington State, we have an advocate and former lawmaker, Eric Pettigrew, who is the CEO of Pettigrew Consulting. He's fought for equal funding of charter schools in his state. We have a school leader from Wisconsin. Dr. Chris Her Jong is the founder and executive director of Hmong American Peace Academy, the first Hmong charter school in Wisconsin. We also have a school leader from West Virginia. Cheryl Staley is the academic administrator at West Virginia Virtual Academy, where she has established strong connections to advance student education at her school. So congratulations to all of the 2024 Changemakers. Also, stay tuned for our upcoming series on innovative charter schools. We'll dive deeper into the unique charter school model and how it impacts students. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Brittany Baker. And remember, charter schools are free, public, and open to
all. Produced by Heartcast Media.